Hi everyone, I'm Frank Daniels, and you're watching Football DataLab. We work with a database of over 30,000 active professional players across more than 80 performance metrics. Today, we're looking at who wins aerial duels in modern football and where that actually decides matches. In front of us is a histogram covering almost 11,000 players. The x-axis shows the percentage of aerial duels won, and the y-axis shows the number of players. The picture is immediately striking. The vast majority of players fall somewhere between 30 and 60%. Peaks above 70 and dips below 20 are the exception, not the rule. What that tells us is that aerial ability is a surprisingly balanced metric. Almost nobody dominates completely, and almost nobody loses every challenge. So the real question becomes, if most players are clustered together, what separates the ones at the top? Is it position, league, physical profile, or something else entirely? Okay, we've seen the overall shape of the distribution. Now let's look at how these numbers shift depending on where a player operates.
We've established who wins aerial duels. Now the question is where it happens most often. The chart covers almost 3,000 observations across 8 leagues. The Brazilian League and the Swedish top flight sit at the top. Their average aerial duel win rates are noticeably higher than in Spain or France. That's not a coincidence. One explanation is tempo and style of play. Teams in the Brasileirão and the Swedish League use long passes and crosses far more frequently, which naturally increases the number of aerial situations and the physical pressure that comes with them. The other factor is squad composition. Those leagues tend to feature more physically dominant center backs and forwards who are specifically built for winning the ball in the air. The Spanish and French leagues sit at the bottom of the list. The priority there is combination football on the ground, and aerial duels simply don't become a decisive tool as often. Okay, that explains geography. Now let's look at how a player's
Leagues give us the geography, but who actually wins aerial duels on the pitch? That comes down to position. This chart covers 7,000 players, and the spread is enormous. Center backs win more than 60% of their aerial duels, the highest figure of any position. Defensive midfielders sit second, but the gap between them is already noticeable. One explanation is selection. The players who physically dominate in the air are precisely the ones who end up at center back. Another is context. Defenders are receiving crosses inside the penalty area, where every aerial duel is critical, so they simply contest more of them. Fullbacks and wingbacks sit at the bottom of the list. That makes sense. Their aerial duels are more accident than design. Okay, so position largely predetermines the number. Now let's look at exactly where on the pitch these aerial duels actually.
We already looked at how position influences aerial duels. Now let's examine just how large the gap between defenders and forwards actually is. Data across 7,000 players shows one clear pattern. Defenders win aerial battles significantly more often than forwards. We're not talking about a couple of percentage points. The gap is substantial. One explanation is situational stakes. A defender who loses a header concedes a shot on goal. The cost of that mistake is higher, so the intensity going into the challenge is higher too. The other factor is positional anthropology. Center backs are traditionally recruited for height and physical power, making them better suited to aerial contests than mobile, agile forwards tend to be. But context matters enormously here. A forward typically receives the ball with his back to goal, under pressure from 2 players at once, with no run-up, fundamentally worse conditions in every sense. So a lower aerial wing rate doesn't mean forwards are physically weaker. It reflects 2 completely different roles within the exact same type of moment. If this kind of analysis interests you, subscribe, and we'll be back in a few days with more breakdowns from the same dataset.